Hey, Dan. All right, so happy Monday. It's our weekly sync. Ian, you have the first item on the agenda.
Yep. So I wanted to share with everyone that the survey that I've been working on putting together is going into Qualtrics later today. What this means for everyone is that hopefully tomorrow I will have the survey ready, and I would really appreciate everyone on the team if you could go through the survey yourself and just kind of record what your experience was like. This is just a chance for me to test out to make sure the questions make sense, that they're lining up with your expectations as an engineer. And I'm hoping to get that wrapped up so that we can actually share it next week. So that's just a heads up on reviewing it. The other thing I would like to talk about, and maybe we could take this to an async conversation, is more around how do we get this survey out. We need to get a lot of people, a little bit over 1,000 to get a good confidence rate. So that's a lot of people. So trying to figure out creative ways to get more people to take the survey would be really helpful if I can get everyone's insights on that. So just wanted to give everyone a heads up that's coming. That's going to be this week and next week. So just kind of think on it, and we'll touch base from there.
Cool. Is Lori helping? Lori's the researcher for everyone who doesn't know. Is she helping with getting the survey out? Do they have an existing panel that they could send the survey to?
Yep, they're going to send it to the existing panel. The panel isn't very large, so this is something that we'll probably have to find some other creative ways to get people to take the survey, whether it's pinging people that are writing on our issues, or start sharing it on Twitter. There's a couple different options.
Okay, cool. All right, so the next item I have is reviewing the 12.4 milestone. So I have the link included there to just pull up the issue list if you want to pull it up. I have it sorted. I know Dan hates when I share my screen, but I have it sorted to manual. If you look in the sort drop-down box, the manual sort will pick up the sort that I included in the board list, so it's in priority order. And then we could go through each item there. Sound good? Okay, so the first item on there is the Docker distribution pruner from experimental to GA. This could be an investigation task. This is, Dan and I were talking last week about whether or not we should prioritize forking the Docker code and optimizing the garbage collection code that's there, or taking what Camille has already done with this Docker distribution pruner code, which is working for some customers. Sarah mentioned she's using this for some people on support calls, but I've seen where there's issues with it causes issues with backups or some other things where it just doesn't work. But we thought this would be the fastest way to improving the garbage collection story for some of our big customers, some that we met with last week that are having 55 terabytes of storage that they're using in their registry, and they just can't use the current version of garbage collection. So in this issue, it links to Camille's code, a little bit of the history, but really we need to dive in and investigate and find out if that's possible, and probably a conversation with Camille is worthwhile to see what he thinks as well.
So sorry to interject, Tim. Yeah, I've been looking through the code and the list of issues. Most of the issues in that project are kind of at best a year old. So I think I've been trying to go through those issues to see if there's anything we can sort of start addressing relatively quickly, but we might end up having to, and this is the issues in the, what is it? The package, the pruner, sorry, the container registry pruner, Docker distribution pruner, or whatever he's called it. So I've been trying to go through these issues to figure out if there's anything there we can actually just kind of go, hey, let's go do this. And it seems like a lot of them there's back and forward with people who are trying to contribute. So I think I still need to go through those issues a bit. Maybe Tim and anyone else who's interested, we can sort of go through and do a quick scan and see if there's anything sort of low-hanging fruit where we can help move that along.
Okay, great. The next item is a net new package manager integration with NuGet. This is this I think is our Stage's highest requested feature, with something like 127 votes now. I've had a few customers recently request this as well. I still need to groom this issue, so it's a little out of date, but that's the next item that we need to work on, and I should have that done this week for sure. But expect it'll look like the Conan MVC issue, which, by the way, Steve, was anything missing from that you think that I should focus on, or was there too much detail in that one that I should exclude from as I build out the NuGet one?
I don't think there's anything in particular one way or the other. Certainly, like, more information is better. I think as a sort of having this top level issue that can eventually be broken down by whoever's working on it as needed. I think that's a good place to start.
Okay, cool. All
Well,
right.
and Tim, I think the other big lesson that we should take away from how we were working on Conan was that it took a lot of investigation up front by Kraus to get to a point where we could kind of move forward and even start breaking things up. I think we want to, I think you would have done this already, but it's worth mentioning, is to say that we should have some sort of investigation effort included up front so that people have the opportunity to do that. So that would be my main takeaway from how Conan's gone so far.
I agree.
Yeah, I think we're thinking that anytime we do one of these integrations, it would take 2 milestones, one for sort of the investigation and getting the API stubbed out, and then the second one for finishing it and testing it and getting it working. That's what Steve and I talked about, at least. So
yeah, I think
should I create an investigation issue, or should I more say, this is the thing, here's as much detail as we could find, and then just understand that the process will take the MRs that come from the main issue will break that work up?
I think my main takeaway, to just characterize it a little better or more, depending on how you look at it, is that investigation would have helped us come to a conclusion about how to deliver an MVC faster. So that's the goal of the investigation, not to fully document all of the possibilities, because that ends up putting us behind a whole set of investigation that, yes, delivers knowledge and helps us understand how to make decisions, and that's awesome, but we should focus that investigation effort on how do we deliver an MVC, a most minimum viable change that's actually useful in this area from this investigation, because then we can make sure we're not just sort of researching for a month or whatever. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me. And I think it's going to be we're going to be in a lot better place with NuGet than we are with Conan, because the documentation is way better and way more thorough, it seems, than NuGet.
So they have some.
They actually have some. It's well talked about. It's. I think we're going to be in a much better place.
And I did create, as a side note, it created an issue for kind of just discussing, like, when we are implementing new package systems in general, sort of, things we've learned along the way, and maybe some notes about how we can break things up in a general sense when we attack each new one. I'll throw a link in here as well.
That would be helpful. Thank you. Are you in the Slack chat, in the Zoom chat?
I'll just add it to the document.
Okay, cool. Okay, next up we have 4 smallish changes, not smallish, but the first one is adding sorting for packages, the packages list at the group and project level. Nick said this would probably likely break down into a few or a couple of MRs. But basically, if you click through the issue, the idea is that on the group list, we're not doing any sorting for the packages list, and we can. So I think that's something that Nick's already started to tackle, actually. The next one on there is checking for Docker images before renaming a group. So if you remember, there's some issue where if you have if you have a special character in your project group or branch name, it will break the connection to Docker, which is obviously a problem. And we have logic in there. So if you go to change your project name, you'll get a warning, and you can see it in the issue. What happens now, you get like a big red banner. It says cannot rename project because it contains registry tags. we should just do the same thing for group. Basically, this came from a bug, and it's just making a logic change on the front end to make sure we don't let users hang themselves that way.
This might also be able to get easily grouped with, I think there's another issue that's pretty much the same thing, but for NPM and Maven packages, because the same thing will happen is if you rename the group or the path to the group, it'll just break the packages, the links to the packages. So I'm assuming, I think I looked into it briefly, and it's like all of that code lives in the same spot. So it would be easy to change all of them at the same time.
Oh, cool. Do you think I should expand this issue to say, or just create?
I think there is another issue somewhere that I probably created when working on, I think, the Maven side of things. So we could just probably add that to this milestone.
Okay. Can you send that to me and I'll make the update?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you wanna prioritize validating the theory that you can change it in one place and then it'll impact everything else before we go adding it. Because if we can't, if that's not going to happen, then when you go to add it and it'll be in the milestone and you have to do a whole bunch, like another set of work to solve the problem. So it's probably worth leaving just the one in here, sending it to Tim like you requested, and then if we can get it, or we feel like we have enough capacity to do both, then we would put it in. I don't know what's John, you might be able to speak to the GitLabiest way to do this, given that you've been here longer than the rest of us.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I would say we definitely need to validate the approach. Why don't we, if we let Nick have a little bit of time to research that and just dig in quickly? That seems like probably a good approach before 12.4.
Okay. Yeah, that's totally fine. I think if we address it first for the Docker images, and I'll include it in the related issues, and I think it'll definitely be worthy of a new MR, just based on our team logic. So maybe worthy of a separate issue as well, just in case.
Hashtag OKRs, yo.
Yeah. Okay, so there's that one, and then the next one is very small. I was going to try to do this one myself, just to go through the MR process and feel the pain, but the help link that we have in settings links to the Maven repository for packages. It should link to the new combined documentation that we have for all package registries. So just a small help change in the front end. And then I'll go ahead.
Sorry, Tim, did you say you're gonna grab that issue?
I think we should give it to Nick, just so, because if it's on me, then I'm going to be responsible for it, and if I don't get it done, I'm going to feel really bad. I think Nick could do it much faster. But I just wanted to show some solidarity. But
it's thanks for the GitLab approach to that one, John.
I know. Okay. All right. So 3 more. I have the authenticate for CI job token for Conan and for NPM. I'm not sure the priority of those. I think we could. I know NPM people customers are asking for. It's definitely a much higher requested feature. But I know once people start using Conan, we'll get it. I guess I would prioritize the NPM one above Conan in this case. And then finally the collecting data and usage measures for our stage, particularly for the container registry. And I think Gigi's working on that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree that NPM would go above Conan in this case.
Yeah.
Just because it's a little bit of a pain point. We've also missed it at least once. So I definitely think that's worthwhile switching the order of those two.
Yeah, I just flipped it. I think that's right. I think the Conan one could probably wait till 12.5 even if we had to. I could leave it in there, and if we get to it, great. But if not, it's okay. I think it could wait till the next milestone.
It could, depending on what demand we get for it, could also be a really good onboarding issue for the next team member we have joining in October.
Oh yeah.
Because if it's already well documented what the process is, it means that they can reach out for help, and so that might be a good one to sort of to have out there. And I think the thread I'm getting as well from all of the research, or all of the research, for the research that I've seen that Ian's doing and everyone's contributing to, is that people use CI pipelines, the pipelines a lot to interact with this stuff. So I think this is going to be good value generally. So I like that we're sort of prioritizing it. It feels like we had a discussion a little while ago on pricing and what we should have in the free tiers, or CE, all of that's changing. So I feel like some of these things, it might be worthwhile. I don't know if Tim and Ian, you're sort of thinking in this respect, but it might be worthwhile sort of having a think about whether some of these things are working well together as an enterprise edition or not. If we're adding these to EE and people only really use them for pipelines, but then they can't really do it, I don't know whether it all works that well. You know what I mean?
Well, we will probably, I think the discussion for me should be, should the package registries be an enterprise feature or a consumer feature? In my opinion, I think I agree with Jason's point in that issue that they should be a consumer feature. But that issue is still going through discussion and some higher up strategy to figure that stuff out. But in my opinion, I would love it for it to all be consumer.
Yeah, it feels like to me, and I don't want to get too ahead of where we're supposed to be anyway, but to me it feels like they probably should be, even though I might not have felt that way a couple of weeks ago. It feels like they should be consumer, and it feels like some things like, the one of the items we have to discuss in here should be sort of enterprise level, the security scanning stuff for the actual proxy that we have coming up. But I'm good.
Yeah, I think that's right. Okay, so that's 12.4. Still working on the NuGet issue, and I'll make some changes this week based on some of the conversations that we had. But any general questions or concerns?
I had one quick question about the NuGet, the .NET package manager. I quickly scanned the issue, and I'll do a little more due diligence. But is anybody aware that will need some front end effort, or do we think that's mostly back end focused right now?
The first milestone, like this milestone, will probably be the investigation and the APIs, and then the next milestone, it'll be front end, but it'll definitely it'll probably be very close to the same front end that we have for NPM and Maven. Yeah, just different metadata that fits into those columns. Conan was a little bit different because we had a expandable settings piece. I don't think NuGet will have that. It seems like it doesn't carry as much of that metadata, but I'll know more in the next couple of days as I look at it. I've just been struggling to get it running on my computer because I have a Mac and not a Windows machine. Yeah. And so I'm just working through some of those kinks. They have something you could use called Soul or something. I forget what it's called, but I just wanted to make sure, I've just been struggling with it. So.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to confirm. Thanks, Tim.
No problem.
And when you're on your Mac, are you using I haven't been in .NET in a little bit of time now, but when my previous role, we were moving everything to .NET Core so we could run on Mac OS and Linux and things like that. Does that help in this situation at all? Or?
Yeah, they have another download that you have to do to use it. And then you could use it from Visual Studio, or you could use it from the command line. I think we want to just cover the command line use case in this case, but we do have to decide between core and standard. I forget which one we should lean toward. Whichever one is like the more widely accepted now, we should use.
Yeah.
And they have two different core, and they have two different files for the metadata. They have like package config, and then they have another one that's called something strange. And then the stranger one is the newer one.
It's package dot something strange apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely the name.
Package strange. Yeah, that's it.
All right. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it.
No problem. Okay. Yeah, so like I mentioned, the next one on there is the dependency firewall, which is a net new category that came up from a conversation with Sid and Kenny, where they were talking about us doing something like this and building off of the dependency proxy to build in some additional security features. JFrog has their X-Ray product, and Sonatype has a firewall product. Everybody's incorporating this stuff. NPM Enterprise is trying to build their whole value chain off of security scanning. So it seems like something that we should do. I created a new category and some content for the strategy and direction page, along with some skeleton issues that we could review. But I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of it and had the chance to, in the issue, provide any feedback or thoughts before it got merged. Or if you had any questions, I'd be happy to answer what I can, even though knowing it's we're not going to get to this until 2020.
What, or did we decide on dependency firewall already as the name?
That's what Sid suggested. Originally they had artifact analysis, but he left a comment in there saying that it didn't quite make sense because they're not artifacts, they're dependencies. And
yes, someone mentioned that there was a duplication of the use of the word artifact in our.
Yeah, and it's not quite right, I guess, naming wise. So we ended up at dependency firewall. We could always change it if we had a good justification. I like it because it helps brand that section. That, like, if we're talking about making dependency proxy and dependency firewall the enterprise features and features that you pay for, I think it helps brand them. And it says exactly what it's doing, which I think is also the GitLab way. So I thought Sid did a good job with naming it. But yeah, if you have other ideas, I'm sure we could talk about it.
Yeah, I don't think I have other ideas right now that aren't just dumb jokes, so I'm going to leave them out. But what I am looking at here is I think there's a couple of things. One, we ought to be really careful that we're trying to leverage the security team's work as much as possible here. I don't want to be recreating the wheel. Ideally, in my head, we as a package gets loaded into the proxy, it's scanned by those same sets of tools if possible, because trying to maintain some understanding of how this stuff fits together is going to be a big lift for a small team like us. And none of that makes sense, right? Sorry, that was a very dismissive way to put it. If it doesn't make sense, then I'm happy to hear arguments otherwise. Sorry. And I think the other thing I was going to say is I think we ought to be discussing the comments that have been raised around the dependency proxy, that I could just add a flag to the Docker distribution registry to run it in proxy mode, and what the dependency proxy does that's different from that. Because I've seen that come up from end users, from our customers. And so I couldn't answer that question. How is it different from just running VDR in proxy mode? I don't know.
Yeah, I would think we need to investigate that probably.
Yeah, so could we, do you want me to add an issue to investigate, or do you want to add that issue? Or it doesn't have to be in here, but I think we ought to be discussing this before it sort of, so we're testing a bunch of effort in dependency proxy, just to make sure we're clear on what we should be providing. And our intention is to provide further support for proxying in the dependency proxy for other stuff other than Docker distribution registry, or AKA the container registry. So this isn't just we don't need it. It's more like, okay, well, how do we differentiate it? How is it valuable? What does it actually do for us? Does that make?
That would be great if you could open that issue. That would be very helpful.
I will find a place to add that issue. Cool. All right, sweet. All
right, what else do we have on the agenda? Oh, thank you for my haircut. I really appreciate it. I got it done yesterday. I'll call myself out. Thank you. Feeling sharp.
Nice, man. That's awesome. And then the last call out here, just to stand up a little bit, Steve.
So I like that shirt. It's cute.
Nice.
Very cool.
Well, that's all I got.
All right. Well, have a great week, and I'll talk to everyone throughout the week. Let me know if you need anything, and like I said, I'll make sure I follow up on these comments here. Okay, let's stop recording.